Hello and welcome to the Mobile GameDev Playbook. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. This is a podcast all about what makes a great mobile game, what is and isn't working at the moment, and all the latest trends. I'm your host Jon Jordan, and in today's episode we are drilling down into how to create a winning mobile game franchise. That is, how to make a series of games over many years. Looking at different types of monetization, looking at how you sort of keep your community together over that period of time. And joining me, a regular guest, is Erno Kiiski, Chief Game Analyst for the US at GameRefinery by Vungle. How's it going, Erno?
It's going great, thanks, John. How are you?
Yes, good. And our sort of special guest to drill down into the subject is Ariel Coppes, the lead game engineer at Ironhide Games Studios in Uruguay. How's it going, Ariel?
Hi, how are you? I'm doing great.
We're going to start off really sort of drilling down into sort of Ironhide and the games it's made over the years. But can you sort of give us a sort of potted history of Ironhide for people who don't know very much about it?
We are mainly known by Kingdom Rush, our main game, our main franchise. We started developing 12 years ago, and it was a big hit on browser in Armor Games at that time. A lot of people played that game, and then we started working. We started releasing the game for mobile. We at that time iPhone was being the next big thing, I suppose. The mobile mobile stores and mobile games were starting, so we had a lot of luck. We released our Kingdom Rush for iPhone, and we had this big feature in the store. So tons of players were playing it. So it was great. But yes, this is us. Then we keep working on the Kingdom Rush franchise, and we started creating new franchises like Iron Marines, for example.
I'm going to go through the list for people who don't know, because you really really have worked hard at it. So you say sort of Kingdom Rush was the first one, a tower defense game back in 2011. I don't know if we can remember mobile games back in 2011. I know seems a long time ago. And I guess it's sort of interesting then, as that was just on the cusp of free to play. So as you sort of pointed out there, Ariel, it sort of came not from the mobile space, came from the browser space, and you put it out as a premium game, which is something I guess we'll talk quite a bit about. You guys have been quite focused on that, even as other things have moved to free to play. But let's go through the list. So we got Kingdom Rush in 2011, Kingdom Rush Frontiers in 2013, Kingdom Rush Origins in 2014, Kingdom Rush Vengeance in 2118, and then last year we had the Apple Arcade game Legends of Kingdom Rush. You've done some other games that maybe we'll discuss, but that's quite a sort of selection of games. All of them released as premium games, although the original Kingdom Rush now is available as free to play. So just in terms of the sort of that basic structure of, you've been very busy creating a franchise. How do you, as a game studio, sort of manage to release that amount of games and make them different enough that the fan, you obviously have a really hardcore fan base, that they really like them, but they obviously have to be different enough not to be too weird, and they have to be sort of similar enough that the people who've played the previous game sort of go, this is the thing I love about it. I often think that's one of the problems with sort of sequels, is getting that really nice balance of new stuff and old stuff and exciting stuff. So how do you think you've sort of approached that over the years?
We didn't know exactly the franchise was going to be so successful over time. So we normally started working on the game. We what we do is we always follow our core values of making games we love to play, and we know that we want to do stuff that people want to keep talking in time. So, but it was a bit of luck with Kingdom Rush. It was the important thing. It was a great game, and people wanted more content. So we keep giving more content for them. So as you said, Kingdom Rush Frontier, for example, the second part of the game, it was almost the first Kingdom Rush with small changes, but all new setting because it was in it was more like sorry. It was the same world, but a different point in time. But yeah, it was what people were expecting: more content, same game, more content, and so we keep building that over time with the next games. So, for example, Origins is a prequel of Kingdom Rush. It's previous to the first Kingdom Rush, and we just add stuff, and they like it. So, but yeah, what we think is building something that we want to, but what we like, and what we want to build things that people keep talking in time. I suppose that is part of the secret. I don't know, but we were really lucky with Kingdom Rush.
Yeah, starting off with the tower defense genre, which at the time was very popular, but it's sort of not so popular now. So I guess you were making games in a really popular genre then, that lots of tower defense games were in. Mm-hmm. Then people started making free-to-play tower defense games that just weren't so popular, and you were still making paid tower defense games. So you sort of got the best of both worlds. You were popular, successful when lots of things were there, and then you just sort of kept going, and there weren't that many tower defense games sort of out there. I mean, why do you think tower defense sort of works so well?
We also our community is expect us to build what we build, so we never change that. Well, we are testing right now with a new game, free to play, but with all the previous Kingdom Rush, it was what people expected. So we keep doing that, and in some way it helped us on building what we do best, is the internal game content. Because sometimes when you try to monetize the game differently, you start doing some game design changes, and maybe affects the game or what the people expect. So it worked for us. But yeah, we are exploring other monetization models as well, because we have to adapt in some way. But with Kingdom Rush, even though most of the people were migrating to free-to-play models, it was working until now for us, the premium model.
Something actually that comes to my mind on like tower defense, which makes it quite a still unique and kind of like a off-layer genre in the whole mobile market. That if you look at still on the kind of like the biggest games in terms of market share in the market, those are mainly those like Bloons games from Ninja Kiwi, and like Bloons TD6. It's a premium. There's a premium kind of like a purchase that you have to make, and it makes about like 50% of the genre's revenues, and it's a premium game. So it's probably one of the last ones of like any genre to have an actual premium game as the top game. Of course, there are like IAPs in that game as well, but still there's the premium hurdle that you need to purchase it first to kind of like play the game. So really kind of like an outlier genre also still in the market. Some
things I think are sort of coincidental, but there obviously is some sort of game design element there where, you know, a well-balanced tower defense game is sort of, you know, quite abstract in terms of the strategy you do in terms of how you level stuff up or where you place things, and sort of that's the joy of a tower defense game, isn't it? To sort of you basically destroy the last enemy with sort of the last, you know, without updating everything, you know. Maybe that's just me and my slightly OCD sort of thing, but you know, you kind of want to be as efficient as possible in a tower defense game. You really want to, you know, have as much money over as possible, and not having updated everything and used all the slots. So I guess that sort of, if you play it that way, that's sort of broken potentially by using in-app purchases. So it has a sort of a cleanness on the game design side that is sort of fixed to the premium monetization. And obviously you can play it with free to play, but that sort of breaks that sort of magic if you're really into tower defense games.
It happened for us with the new game, with the Legends of Kingdom Rush, that at some point we were deciding how to monetize it, and it was fighting against the game we were developing, because it is some kind of roguelite game, and we were thinking if we added in-app purchases inside the game, you're probably thinking about the game being designed being designed for you to buy stuff, or like paywalls or something like that. Beer design is super hard, so you have to pay money to keep going, and that is going against the game. So we changed the model, and well, we had the lack of working with Apple Arcade, and well, the game we could develop a game without having to sacrifice what we were doing with in-apps or stuff like that. So you can play the experience only paying upfront one time. Well, no subscription, but you understand what I mean.
And that's clearly what that's what Apple Arcade was sort of designed to capture, wasn't it? And I mean that was sort of I guess Apple sort of felt that there were game developers who wanted to make games in a certain way and genres that perhaps didn't fit into free to play. I mean, obviously you can make any genre free to play, but you may sort of lose some core elements, and I guess that was sort of what Apple was sort of hoping to do, or is still hoping to do with Apple Arcade, which now has however many hundreds of games in there. I don't know. We don't really have any idea commercially how sort of well it's done, but obviously subscription models are the way that people are consuming sort of media now in general. Even on mobile. Okay, so should we talk a little bit about sort of the game you're working on now? So it's called Junkworld, isn't it? And that's your first game that you sort of designed to be free to play, from the start. So how's that been different to all the other games you've made, and how have you had to think about getting new skills or potentially new sort of staff members in who have experience with free to play?
It's a different experience for us. We want to experiment with free to play because we want to learn as a company what we have to do there. But at the same time, it's an experiment in some way. We know that if something doesn't work as we want to work, even being a free to play, maybe we have to make a big change at some point. But the soft launch is giving us a great feedback. The first view we had, it was like I said before, people were feeling that the game was being hard, so they have to pay. But then we started to change the balance and started to give them other options. So now we are getting better feedback from them. But yes, it's super different for us, but it's an experiment. We want to do it to understand the market and to have some one small step in that direction. If in the future we have to migrate to make more free to play games.
Is your game also this one going to be mainly focusing on like a PvE combat, or like is there like maybe some like social PvP element? Because what we have seen, or like what is like really interesting for me in tower defense market, and if we look at, as we follow naturally the biggest games in the market and so on, and we have seen these successes of games like Random Dice or Rush Royale, the more recent one, which is actually a tower defense game which has this kind of like mainly like a PvP element where you're playing against each other in a 1v1 setting, and then your meta side of the game is kind of like building a deck, kind of like in Clash Royale or so on. So what's the approach that you guys are taking with the new game?
Well, we are still doing a PvE game because we have a lot of experience in that, and we know we can control the experience, and in some way we feel that it's what our community wants. We are trying to expand our community to the free-to-play market, but also trying to get the same kind of players in some way. So this game is going to be similar to Kingdom Rush, but you are going to have more in some way auto-generated. No, it's not the word maybe, but you are going to have much more content than Kingdom Rush in terms of replayability in the long term. But we don't have PvP yet for this game.
With the free-to-play sort of business model, over the years, that's not just been about monetization. That's really been about, sort of games as a service and how you sort of build sort of live ops and special events. And as we've discussed in previous podcasts, Erno, it's now for the biggest games. That's a sort of constant sort of inflow of content all the time, and it makes the game sort of very dynamic, and it allows you to retain audiences. Where how much of you at Ironhide have you've had these premium games, but have those sort of been sort of much more solid sort of games where people just sort of play through the content, and then once they've played through, then maybe kind of updates sort of irregularly, or are you still with premium games doing things like sort of limited edition events or updates every week? How do you, because that seems to be a little bit of a hard thing to do in a premium game. So how have you sort of approached that?
Well, we don't approach it at all. Well, the only thing we do is, as you say, the updates after releasing the game, but it's for a small period of time, so it's not, it can't be considered live ops. We are doing some stuff like challenges, but in the social networks, like saying, "Oh, you have to beat this stage with this tower," and people are playing it a lot, but it's not integrated in any of the games. So, but that is a way we could do something like a small step in live ops direction. But yeah, for the new game, we are thinking a lot of that, right? Because we want it to live for a long period of time. And probably the players is good. For Kingdom Rush and other premium games, we have like at the first after the release, the first 2 to 3 weeks, and then you don't have almost any player. And for this game, we expect the opposite, right? To increase players over time. So yeah, we are developing thinking in terms of doing stuff over time, like challenges is the main thing, and integrating in the game, like daily challenges and stuff like that. That is what people we suppose expect for our games, to play again a level or a stage, but with different conditions, and to be able to beat it.
A good use of sort of content as well, is it, where you're not having to make more content all the time. You're basically bringing people back to this level and asking them to sort of fulfill it in different sort of ways, and so that kind of retains people and doesn't mean you're constantly trying to have to make new levels all the time, which I guess is probably for tower defense games, a very time-consuming process to make a well-balanced level.
For our premium games, we also do something like we have optional content like heroes and towers and stuff. So for some players that want to pay extra, they can play the game again in a different way, a bit different, not so much, but yeah, it's another way to add content and to keep the game a bit live, but it's not too much, like what we expect for Junkworld.
Another sort of theme we discussed in the past, Erno, is it battle passes? Is this going to be? Is tower defense going to fit with battle passes? I mean, because everything fits with battle passes now, don't they? I mean, would that be what sort of advice should we be giving from the trends we've seen for these sort of?
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, like it depends always on the implementation and how you integrate it into your economy and so on. But definitely, like if we think about like the way that some of the genres like that. Are more like, or are known for this kind of like more player-friendly monetization, or where have moved, like for example the shooters which moved to the free-to-play market. Usually that's the feature to think about, and kind of like having the same, depending how you like implement it, of course, like having the engagement part of it, having the like the retention part of it, engaging if you are like creating a game for some kind of season-based loop or something like that. So definitely one of the tools in the big toolkit of like live service monetization. But yeah, it always depends on the actual game, that does it actually fit in there. So
yes, as I said, we are learning a lot with Junkworld. It's our first free-to-play and game focused on live ops. So we are probably experimenting with everything. What we are doing right now is we added a VIP pass or something like that to remove the energy system, and a lot of people are buying it. So they are saying in some way that they don't want the energy system, but it's okay. We are learning, as I say. And also, I am not part of the team, so I might be not knowing some stuff.
Do you think because you just have such a history of making premium games that, you know, have you found there has been some sort of community reaction against what you're doing? Because I guess for some people it's like, you know, even now some people, you know, really dislike free-to-play games, and I guess they've loved your games to a degree because pretty much all other mobile games have sort of moved free-to-play. And you guys have sort of stuck very firmly to how you want to make your sort of game. So has there been any sort of, I mean, backlash is probably not quite the right word, but has there been people sort of disappointed that you're sort of taking this move?
Yes, a lot of people. The thing is, we are not only making free-to-play games, so we keep doing what we do best. We are experimenting with free-to-play, but yes, in some way, some people are like, they don't like what they see from outside. They think that making a free-to-play game is probably saying that we are doing free-to-play from now on, and yes, but we always have people that don't like something, so it's really difficult to discern to know what to read from that, because for example now when you release a game on mobile, then people are asking for the game on Steam, and when you release it on Steam, people are asking for the game on Switch, and you always have someone asking for something. But with the free-to-play, yes, the first reaction was that they didn't expect that. But as I said, we are trying also to expand our community in some way, and we are trying to adjust the game so we can get the best from both worlds, and I believe we are doing a good work with that, and people that normally love our games are enjoying a lot Junkworld too.
And I guess, you know, you're doing it with a new sort of IP. You're not suddenly sort of, you know, you're not taking an existing IP that's always been premium and then sort of twisting that, because I think that's often when the community gets very upset when it's sort of something that they feel, you know, because being part of a community is sort of having, or at least feeling you have ownership over something, and maybe having some sort of social ownership over something. So you sort of, I guess, that to be done it in the right way. I did have a question actually about sort of cross-platform, because you have released on PC and other platforms. So sort of in general, what's your sort of philosophy about, you know, I guess you've always been a mobile-first sort of studio, but in general, lots of products now are sort of going over lots of different platforms. So how do you see that one sort of playing out, and you know, how for Junk Wars as well? How do you see that one?
Well, for our premium games, we always want the game to be in as much platforms as possible. It's because we want everyone to play them, and we normally have to change the monetization model in some cases. Like Steam is you buy the game and you don't have anything to buy inside the game, and we have to adapt it. So it is going to be difficult for Junkworld because it's not so translatable to Steam because of the model, and it's probably something negative for that game. But I suppose we are also experimenting with working on. You say we are mobile first. As I say, we are experimenting with a lot of stuff. One of them is free to play, and one of them might be maybe a game developed mainly not for mobile first.
We have free to play games on consoles now, so obviously technically you could do that. Do you think this particular game, yeah, would that work on, say, consoles? Or
it depends. It's probably going to take some time. I believe first we have to understand the game and to learn a lot about the game and make changes, and that's going to take some time for us. And we're a small studio, and not everyone is working on that game, so we are going to get some experience, some information, and then we are going to decide depending on how well it's performing. Normally for Kingdom Rush, it's like obviously we want to translate to Steam and consoles, and it is a lot of work for us. Even though we are working with an external game with external studio for porting the games to Steam and Nintendo Switch, and it's still a lot of work. We are a small company, as I said, and this studio is small also, so it takes time for us. But it is probably something we are going to decide in the future, depending on the game, how well it's performed. I believe it's okay to first release it on mobile, which is the biggest player base, and then depending on that, translate to other platforms.
More generally, we are, over time, we are seeing a much more sort of mixing of sort of platforms, aren't we? I mean, there was this whole thing probably 3 or 4 years ago when mobile got very busy and everyone then was sort of switching to sort of PC or mobile and PC, and now obviously consoles are more sort of open as well, and it seems very much so that if you have a decent product, then it sort of tends to go everywhere now.
No, also the tower defense genre is super easy to translate to different platforms, but then you start like Iron Marines is not so easy, for example, because you need a lot of controls, and for Nintendo Switch it's not so easy to control with a gamepad. So yeah, that is something we also have. Like it is good for us that all of our tower defense games are in some way easy to translate to our platforms.
Yeah, definitely. That's something that it's always like of course, like you can unlock the benefits of having a game in cross-platform, and you are able to kind of like widen your audience, but then it always depends after all in the game. Like, does it actually, many of the mobile games, like playing a match 3 on a console, I don't think it would find like a massive audience. So it always depends on how well the actual experience then works based on the platform. So yeah. But yeah, definitely that seems where the like more and more companies are trying to do, and trying to create these cross-platform experiences where kind of like the similar game or same game, or even like game with the cross-play possibility to play among each other is playable in both mobile to console to PC and you name it.
Mobile browser, I think, is sort of particularly strong because they both sort of fairly open platforms. The consoles are obviously much more open than they used to be, but there's still that sort of friction within how you get stuff approved, and whereas just be able to share links it is clearly easy.
Definitely, and like just like playing the crossplay, for example, the mega games like Genshin Impact, for example, you're not like cross platform play with like PlayStation with mobile. There's no kind of like a possibility to play with the same account for an example. So there are more like barriers in console cross platform play for sure.
But I think definitely for the as you mentioned, kind of Genshin, I guess is the big sort of reminder there that for the big games now though, it's sort of you sort of have to do that if you're a global sort of publisher. It's sort of just a tick box you sort of have to do, and obviously technically it's much easier to do than it used to be, and it's just seen when you have a game that's out there, you want to drive as much audience at the same time towards it, because that just allows you to spend much more on a game development costs in the first place, because you can feel like you can address the entire audience. Actually, talking about sort of global stuff, I mean, obviously you guys are not obviously, but you guys are based in Uruguay. I mean, not particularly. There are lots of game developers in Uruguay and Argentina, places like that, but not particularly sort of well known. Certainly when you guys came out, I mean, have you found as most mobile games you sort of have a global audience, or where does your audience? Where are the sort of hotspots for your audience?
Well, first, when I joined Ironhide 2 years after it was created, and for me it was super fun to knew that Ironhide was from Uruguay too. I was reading in some of our game development forums inside Uruguay, and at some point they appear and say, "Oh, okay, we are releasing our game." They have a blogspot all in English, and I expected them to be from another part of the world, and so it was a big surprise for me too to know that they are from here. Our audience, I suppose that we have most of our audience from when we were again in the browser, in Armor Games. The game, as I said, it was played by all the world. At that point, browser was a big thing, and it was free to play the game. We get money from play time or from sessions. I don't know. I don't remember. But it was so easy to play, and the games was great. So almost everyone was playing it, and I believe that in some way most of the people had a great memory of Kingdom Rush. So when they see Kingdom Rush in mobile 5 years later, even though they are not following us year to year, but at some point they see Kingdom Rush or something related to Kingdom Rush, and they have a great memory, so they buy it or play it or whatever. So that is I suppose that is our main audience.
Over the period of time where Ironhide's been sort of making games, the big growth has been sort of China, Southeast Asia, which is not particularly well known as sort of a market for premium games. So have you felt you've that's sort of a market that you haven't really sort of cracked yet, and maybe something like Junkworld, which is free to play, will give you sort of better distribution, at least in those sort of markets where they're just not interested in sort of buying mobile games.
We also had to adapt some of our games for that market. For example, we Kingdom Rush recently we made a free to play version. Free to play version. Yes, it was like a free to play version. We adapted it a bit. Of course, it was not designed for that, but it was adapted, and we are testing that in that country, and it's doing well. But the great thing is when it was free to play on browser, also people from all over the world were playing, and even in China, and they did what they had to do to play the game. That was super great, and even if we were making the game premium, they did stuff to buy it and to play it. Yes.
I thought you were going to say that they didn't pay for it. They just found the hacked versions of it.
Well, yes, there are also hacked versions. It was like you release the game, and the next day of your release, it is already on all networks. The hacked version is already.
Which is sort of why everyone moved to free to play, I suppose. that was the moral of the story.
Yes, you can control.
Cool, good. So we're coming to the end. I guess because Junkworld is the game that you're sort of working on. Is it? Have you got like a launch sort of date in mind yet, or is this? You say it's in soft launch at the moment, so you know you may not be able to tell it. Where are you thinking?
I suppose it's going to be soft launch until it matches our expectations about the game, and then we are going to announce the release date. So, but I don't know. Maybe there is a release date, and I don't know.
And there's probably other things you're working on that you can't talk about as well, is there?
Yes.
But that's it. That's the end of that. Lovely. Okay, I guess keep an eye on Ironhide's socials to find out about the secret things they're working on when they're not so secret. Thank you very much, Ariel. That was really fascinating to get a dive into what's going on at Ironhide and how you are sort of changing and building new products. So thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you so much for inviting me.
Thanks, Erno. Always good to have you on.
Thank you.
And thank you to you for listening and for watching, depending on how you have accessed the podcast. Remember, every month we are talking to the people in the mobile games industry, the biggest part of the game sector, making these incredibly cool products that are played by people all the way around the world. 3 billion gamers on mobile, so pretty vibrant. Hope you're enjoying it. Please subscribe through your podcast or videocast provider of choice, and maybe give us some feedback. That'd be great. But thanks for watching, and see you again soon.